Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the gentleman from Colorado would indulge a quick question before he leaves. Yesterday, there was a rally with thousands of people in Boulder, Colorado, commemorating the victims, celebrating Jewish culture and people. The two senators from Colorado were there. Mr. Neguse was there. I would just ask if the gentleman who's introducing this resolution to commemorate ostensibly the victims of Boulder was in his neighboring district to be with the victims and the community.
The gentleman is recognized, from Colorado is recognized, who would like to respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. I unfortunately had other engagements that had been scheduled, and the resolution was introduced to, again, focus a component of the dialogue. Of course, our thoughts and our condolences go out, but we need more than thoughts and condolences. We need to have the conversation about how to prevent this from happening again. We need to have the public safety dialogue, and that is what the resolution does.
Well, I thank the gentleman for answering. According to reporting this morning, the other previous obligations that the gentleman from Colorado had was to appear at a political campaign conference of the Speaker here in Washington, D.C., with 3 other members who flipped districts. I'm sure it was essential for the gentleman from Colorado to be the 4th Republican member to have flipped a district last time to speak with donors in Washington, D.C., that he could not return to Boulder, Colorado to commemorate the victims who were the subject of this resolution that he so misguidedly introduced. Because this resolution is the exact opposite of Mr. Van Drew's resolution. This resolution uses anti-Semitism, uses Jews for a political objective. This was an anti-Semitic attack. The victims were Jewish. A victim was a Holocaust survivor. There's no question that the motivation of the perpetrator was anti-Semitism. It has nothing to do with how he got into this country. And if you want to have an immigration enforcement conversation, let's have an immigration enforcement conversation. Because this has nothing to do with that. And for the gentleman from Colorado to break precedent in the House of Representatives, to prevent the member representing the victims of this horrific attack from leading a resolution representing the families, I hope is simply because he's only been here for 6 months and does not understand the traditions of this institution. Because it would be a shame if this is where this institution has gone, if the partisanship has gotten so deep and so raw and so uncontrollable that we can't follow the custom of having the victims' representatives introduce a resolution condemning such a horrific attack like this. But then on top of it, to use this for some bogus immigration argument where he falsely characterizes Colorado as a sanctuary state, falsely represents that there were law enforcement contacts with the perpetrator, when the only information we have is that there were some 911 hang-ups that trace back to an address where the perpetrator was living. To argue that somehow this is a reflection of our immigration system uses Jews as a partisan pawn. It is the exact opposite of what we Jews in this country need. And I get that we're in a political body. I get that you like to put these resolutions. You weren't here, Mr. Evans, last term, but there were about 10 anti-Semitism resolutions that effectively said the same thing solely to score political points. We Jews are sick and tired of being used as pawns. Anti-Semitism is rising to such a degree that people are now being murdered because they're Jewish. We're not just talking about protests on campus anymore. Every single Jewish institution has to significantly increase security. We all have to worry when we go into a synagogue whether it will be the next victim. And here we are dealing with this resolution, trying to convert anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic violence into some immigration gotcha game. What are we thanking ICE agents for? In a resolution commemorating and condemning anti-Semitism and remembering and honoring the victims when there were no ICE agents there. ICE has nothing to do with it. It's because ICE is spending so much time pulling nonviolent, non-criminal immigrants out of court where they're going through a lawful process to come in here so that they can be removed in expedited removal so that they can have their asylum claims, a lawful pathway, voided so they can be kicked out of the country with minimal due process. Just so Republicans and President Trump can meet their quota of mass deportations. You promised us you were going to go after convicted criminals. These people are not convicted criminals. This resolution says that there's cooperation between state, local, and federal law enforcement. Really? Because as far as I know, the President of the United States ordered the National Guard to go into California over the objection of the governor of California. Something that has not happened since 1965. And in 1965 it happened because the governor of the state was not following federal law. Is that the kind of cooperation that we're looking for here? This resolution should be pulled immediately. Mr. Van Drew, Mr. Neguse have offered resolutions that properly honor the victims, condemn anti-Semitism, give the American people the sense of Congress that we as a unified body will not tolerate anti-Semitic violence. But instead, we're voting on an immigration gotcha resolution that uses anti-Semitism as a political pawn. Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues on the other side to come to your senses. Stop using anti-Semitism as a partisan weapon. Pull this resolution. Allow Mr. Neguse's resolution to be introduced and voted on, as is the tradition of this body. In parallel and along with Mr. Van Drew's, which accurately reflects the threat not just in Boulder, Colorado, but in Washington, D.C., in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and all around the country. We still can do the right thing. It is still possible, and I am certain the American people would greatly appreciate to see some bipartisanship out of this body on a topic that is so important to so many. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from New